The next thing we're going to work on is the rear spoiler, but before we do that, we're going to correct this shading issue we have right here. So we're going to press tab, we're going to switch to edge selection, select these edges. Maybe just these two is fine. Do subdivide, switch to vertex select, alt right click on this edge, Q to slide, and then join the two sides together, and we'll see if that corrected the issue. It seems like we still have the issue there. So instead what we want to do is select this edge, subdivide, switch to vertex select, G twice, slide this over, select this one and this one, J to join, this one and this one, J to join, back to edge select, and we're going to get rid of this edge, so select it, delete, dissolve edges, and that should correct that shading issue. Seems to have done the job. So we're going to go to File and Save. Now what we want to do is create the rear spoiler, so we're going to press Tab, switch to Vertex Select, and we're going to Alt right click on this one, so not the one that's part of this thing, but the one that's actually part of the car still. Just Alt right click on it, deselect this vertex, Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, drag it up, hold Control, snap it here, so that we're snapping on the Z-axis to this point. E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it over. From top view by pressing 7, we want to make sure that this is there's a little bit of space between the end of this and this point. Something like that is pretty good. We can also see the shading's messed up, so we're going to do select linked, Control N to recalculate the normals, and then press tab to go to object mode and make sure smooth shading is turned on. Now back in edit mode, we're going to take this vertex and in top view by pressing 7, move it over, and you can potentially move this one too if you want, it's up to you. And we're going to do the same with these, just bring them over. You can even bring them forward some if you want, so that they better line up with this here. One thing about this spoiler is there's actually this lip right here. So from this point it starts going down, like in a downward direction, where this line is, this other crease is. You'll see what I mean once we make it. So we're going to do, and it actually continues, you know, not just on the spoiler, but it continues over here as well. So we're going to do Control R, mouse wheel up to get 2 loops, left click, right click, Control R on this side, do the same thing, mouse wheel up, left click, right click. In vertex select, select these 2 vertices, J to join, these 2, J to join. Now we're going to alt right click, and we're going to do 7 for top view, Q, then E, then F to make sure that it's lining up with this edge line. And we're going to do about this much, and then alt right click here, Q, then E, then F, and do it about this much. We're not going to need all these extra vertices on the side, so what we're going to do is select this one, shift select this one, alt M at last, select this one, shift select this one, alt M at last. Now we can alt right click on this edge, delete, dissolve edges, alt right click on this edge, delete, dissolve edges. So that will help keep the shading similar to how we had it before, but it will give us the edges that we need to make this downward indent, I guess. So now we have the topology we need here, but we want to do the same over here. So we're going to press 7 to go to top view. And I think actually I probably want to pull this out some like this. So we're going to do Control R, mouse wheel up, so you get two loops, left click, right click, Alt right click, Q, then E. This time you don't have to press F because it's already on that. And you just want to line up this new line with this current line that we had before. And then you want to do Alt right click, Q, E. Do the same here, line this up with that. So now we are all set. What we want to do is pull this line down. That was the purpose of adding this line. So we're also going to do Alt, Shift, and right click to get this line because we want this line to be pulled down. But we don't want these 2 points, so we're going to deselect them. C for circle select, middle mouse to deselect. And we also don't want any of these on the bottom, these very bottom ones that are connected to this line. We want to deselect them, so I'm just going to use circle select with middle mouse to deselect until you have these just like that. And you're going to pull them down a little. So now you're getting more of like this downward and then back up. That's more of how this is supposed to be here. And you can bring these side ones up a little further because this is when it starts to meet back up to where it's supposed to be. So now what we want to do is Alt right click on this, and we want to bring this up to better match where this angle is. So we have the basic shape of our spoiler, although it's still two-dimensional, but that's fine. So we're going to File and Save. Now what we want to do is add in some of the more difficult details. Such as this piece right here. So we're going to press Tab to go to edit mode, and we're going to do Control R, add in a loop cut, bring it into about here perhaps. We can actually do Control 1 and then Z for wireframe and use this reference if you want to. So that's probably good. And then when it actually gets closer to the front of this, it actually tapers off. So we want to set up for that. So this vertex here, we can do G twice and start to taper it off a little like this. And do the same with this one. Make it so it's a nicer line like that. And another thing is it actually doesn't go all the way to the back, or it doesn't go all the way to the front of the spoiler. So this would be the front of the spoiler, and this actually ends before that, so we need another loop cut here. So we're going to do Control R, left click and drag this to where we want the spoiler or this piece to end, and we can actually drag these back away from each other by using G twice, and bring these a little closer with G twice. So that we have this here. And I'm just going to save real quick. And I actually think that this is a little too far away from here. So we're going to Alt right click on this. Again, we're going to deselect these two vertices. And we're also going to deselect all the ones on the bottom here that we don't want. And then we're going to Alt right click on this one so we have the same edges that we had before. And we're going to just press Q and slide it up slightly to wherever you think it should be. So this is a bit better, I think. possibly. We're just going to go with this for now. And we want to make this piece here. So to do that, we're just going to go to face select and select these faces. E to extrude, right click to cancel, drag it up. You can do Control 1 to go to back view and try to drag it up similar to how that's dragged up. And then we can go to vertex select, select this vertex, shift select this one, Alt M at last, and do the same here. We're just going to select this one, shift select this one, Alt M at last. And these vertices need to be brought up a little, so I'm just going to bring them up a little. And then these outer vertices here need to be brought inward, so we're just going to bring these in a little. And again, you can do Control 1 and Z for wireframe to try to match the angle of this. I'm not sure the height's really correct in this reference, so just use whatever height you think is appropriate. Now that we're getting this shading issue, to fix that, we're going to go to Edge Select and select these two edges, do Subdivide, switch to Vertex Select, Alt right click here to get this newly created edge, press Q to slide, and then just like we've done before, we're going to join these at the top and bottom, and that will help to correct any shading issues we have here. It looks like we still need smooth shading here, so I'm going in object mode. I'm going to press smooth shading to enable smooth shading, and now we want to go back into object mode, switch to face selection. Actually, we want to stay in vertex select. Alt right click on this, because from this image, like, this would be the top of that crease line, and then you can see it goes down slightly before the light starts, and this is also where the bottom of this backup camera is. That's what this is a backup camera. So this needs to go down a little so that we can make the backup camera as well as the top of the light area. So what we're going to do with this edge selected, we're just going to press E to extrude, right click to cancel, and drag it down a little. Something like that should be fine. And to create, you can see how this, goes around this area like this. And to create that, what we're going to do is go to face select, select these two faces, press I and then B for border, and we're just going to do an inset. And the goal here is to try to make this width similar to this width, so it looks like it's just continuing all the way around. So if you look at it like this, now you can see you just have that shading continuing around like this, just as it would around this piece. And although we don't have a good picture of this camera area, I did look at some better pictures. I'll put them in the description, and I did go ahead and make a quick, well, it wasn't that quick, but I did go ahead and make a model of it so that we can use the model as a reference. So we're going to start making this part here. So now that we have these selected, again we're going to do I and then B, and we're just going to do a really small inset. I think something like that is probably what I did, yeah. And then switch to vertex select, and I actually took this vertex, shift selected this one, and did Alt M at last to merge that at the last point. And then what I did is I just extruded it in, I guess. So we're going to go back to face select, select these faces, E to extrude, right click to cancel, and pull it in some. This top part actually doesn't really get pulled in, so we're going to just go to vertex select, select this vertex, shift select this one, Alt M at last, and then do the same here to merge them at the last point. So we have this. And we're going to do another inset to contain the bad shading. And I guess I did leave this face there, so we're going to select these two faces, press I and then B, and do a really small inset. And then what we want to do is make this part where the camera is. So what we're going to do with these two faces still selected, we're just going to press I and then B. Do a fairly small inset because you can see how down here like the edges are crossing. So just do a fairly small inset so that these edges are not crossing each other. And then what we're going to do is go to File, User Preferences, type in Loop, and enable loop tools by left clicking here, make sure there's a check mark, then close this, press W, loop tools, and circle. That will make this into a circle. Press S to scale it down, and then you can do W, loop tools, and circle again to make it into a circle, and then bring it up until it's relatively centered. You can also go to back view if you want to try to center it. Just whenever you scale it, make sure you do W, loop tools, and then circle, because scaling it's going to mess it up because it's mirrored. It's not going to be a perfect circle after you scale it. So you always have to do the circle thing again. And then this part actually needs to be pulled back on the y-axis a bit. So just pull it back some on the y-axis until you are happy with the result. Now we want to press I to inset, B for border, and do a small inset again. And then do I for inset, B for border, and do a small inset one last time. And this last one, we're just going to pull it in a bit more again. We'll add in the rest of the details in a little bit, but this is the basic shape for that. What we're going to do now is we're going to make this extrusion downward and make this shape here where the light would be and the rest of this is. So in edit mode and vertex select, we're going to alt right click on this bottom edge, E to extrude, right click to cancel, and bring it down. And just bring it down however far you think it needs to be on this side. You can use this as a reference. And then you see it starts to go down. And where it starts to go down, like this most inner part, is basically where this fin is. And then this other one's obviously a little bit further out. So we want to take a look at our car here. So this is basically where the fin is. So this one's pretty much in the right position. We just need to do Control R and add in another loop cut for where we want this to stop. So maybe like that. That's approximately where I think it should be. So now we want to take these vertices that are past this point all the way to the center, and we can just bring these down. And it actually doesn't go all the way to the bottom of the car. It doesn't actually physically touch the car. So you just want to make sure it's a bit above where the car is, just a little above it, because there is a little space. There is a little space between the car and the rear spoiler. Another thing we can add is these bevels. Like there's a bevel here on this curve and then a bevel down here. So we can select the vertices we want to bevel, so these two in this case, and do Control Shift B and do a small vertex bevel. And then with these extra vertices that were created, we can just merge them up with Alt M, and that will take care of that, and it will also give us that nicer, smoother shape. So it's coming along nicely. Let's go ahead and save it by going to File and Save. To start bringing this forward, like this part would go underneath and it would come forward to meet up here. What we're going to do is just Alt right click on this edge, E to extrude, right click to cancel, and drag it down a little. Then what we want to do is select linked, Shift H to hide everything else. This will make it easier to join this front part to the back part. So we can just select these faces or these vertices, then press F, and select these two and press F. Now select this extra one, so we have these three, press F. Select these two, press F. Select these three, press F. Select these two, press F, I guess. And perhaps we can join this one. I want to see what I did. That's exactly what I did. So we're going to select this one, Shift select this one, Alt M at last, and that'll join those two together. And then to finish this off, select these two, press F. And it looks like maybe the normals are messed up, so we can press A twice, Control N. And also in object mode, enable smooth shading, and that may have been part of the problem. We can see we have some shading problems, so to fix that we're going to press Tab. And what we're going to do is add in a loop on the bottom, but since we have some triangles, it's going to be a bit harder, so we're just going to go to Edge Select and just select all the edges that are on the bottom. So I selected this outer one and this next one, then I use Circle Select to get these, then do Subdivide, that'll give us a new edge. And what I'm actually going to do first is fill in this side, so we're going to go to Vertex Select and select these four vertices. So these outer two, this top one and the bottom one, press F to make a face. Select these two and these two, press F to make a face. Select these three, press F, and then select these four and press F, and that'll fill in that side there, but we still have this shading issue. To fix that, we can do Control R, left click, and drag this to the edge. You can also use E and F to make sure it's an even line, but you notice it doesn't continue on. If you want to, you can continue it on by doing Control R, adding in a loop cut here, E then F, and then select this point, Shift select this point, J to join, and that will connect it. And the shading issues should mostly be resolved, except we have some here. To fix the shading issue that we have here, we can just do Control R, add in a loop cut here, and drag it close. And that will help to minimize any shading problems that we have there. To help fix the shading here, we're just going to go back to edit mode. And we're going to do Control R, mouse wheel up, add in two loops, left click, right click, do Control R over here, mouse wheel up to add two loops, left click, right click, and we're going to take these and join them to each other, to the respective top line and bottom line. So select one vertex, select the other, J to join. We can get rid of these extra vertices, so select these two, Alt M at center. Do the same here. You can use Shift R to repeat the last command if you want, until we have gotten rid of those triangles there. Now what we can do is, but we actually need to finish this all the way over. So we're going to select this, do subdivide, change the number of cuts to 2, and again we're going to need to join these together by pressing J. So we can right click on this top one, and we can do Q then E and bring it nice and close to the top. That'll help contain the bad shading up here. And you can alt right click here, do Q then E, and bring this down. This one's actually going to help us make the bottom of the light as well, so that'll be nice to have. And then perhaps we can join these, so select these two, and I actually want to join this one down to this one, so I'm going to select them in the correct order and join it down like that. And I'm just making sure that the shading still looks okay, so that looks good. Everything looks pretty good. So we're going to save it. And now what we're going to do is add a bevel to these edges here. So in edit mode, we're going to alt right click on this edge, and we're going to deselect this vertex. So you should only have these 4 selected, and do Control B to add in a bevel. And we're going to take this extra vertex here, shift select this one, alt M at last, and we're going to select this one, bring it up some, and these here we can do alt M at center, and we can actually take this one and join it and merge it here at last as well, so that we have something more like this. And if you want to add some curvature to this, you can do Control R, mouse wheel up to get 2 cuts, left click, right click, and then drag this up some, because this is supposed to be slightly curved. You can select these points here as well and create better curvature here too. And also from this angle you can pull these out on the x-axis some, and you can do the same with these to get a better overall curvature. Until you have something like this. So that looks pretty good. So we can go ahead and save it by going to File and Save. To create this detail here, what I did was just make it into an entirely different object. So I'm just going to use this as my reference. So we're going to go into our file here again and make sure your cursor is at the center. Do Shift S, cursor to center, and in object mode go to create, do circle and change the number of vertices to 12 and press enter. Now we can press tab into edit mode, R, X, and then 90 to rotate 90 degrees on the x-axis. Bring this back, S to scale it down, and we're just going to start bringing it in position. Just don't move it on the x-axis because we want it to be centered. You can do Control 1 for back view if you want and try to line this up a bit better. I'm just going to take a look at how I lined mine up. So I had it a little smaller. So you want this to be a little smaller, about like this. And then what we want to do is bring it back some until it's not hiding, but just a bit before it's hiding, so right here. Then we can press E to extrude, right click to cancel, cancel, and bring this forward some. so that we have the depth there. We're going to press F to make a face, and we're going to press I to inset. This time, since it's not mirrored, we don't need to use B to enable the border option. We're fine without it. And then we're going to do another inset just to contain any bad shading. So we're going to do I and do a really small inset. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, and bring this back slightly to create this distance here. And then we can do I for inset and do a small inset again. And then inset one more time. This time do a really small one, like that. And then we're going to pull it back again. So we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, and pull it back some. Probably a bit more. And we're going to do one more inset here. So we're going to press I to inset. Make one about that big right there. And then I think we're going to want to bring this back out again. I'm actually going to hide this real quick so I can make sure I'm doing the right thing. So we're going to press E to extrude, right click to cancel, and bring this back out again. And then I to inset, do a smaller inset, but not too small. And then we're going to press E to extrude, right click to cancel, and bring this back a little bit one more time, maybe a bit further than that. And in object mode, we also want to enable smooth shading to give us a better idea of what we're looking at here. To create this centerpiece, all I did is in object mode, go to create and do UV sphere, set the segments to 12 and press enter. Then we want to bring our sphere back to the back of the car, S to scale it down, R, X, and then 90 so that we have this point here facing this way. And again, just don't move it on the X-axis. If you accidentally do, you can go up here and reset the X value to be 0 by left clicking here and pressing 0 and then enter. So just scale it down, continue putting it in position. Most of these vertices we're not going to need, so I'm going to Alt right click on this edge, H to hide it, select one of these vertices on this back part, select linked, delete vertices, Alt H to bring back that edge. We may even be able to get rid of this edge probably, so we can just delete and choose vertices. And now we have our small little lens here, I guess it would be. So we're just going to move it into position. You can do Control 1 for back view, Z for wireframe, S to scale it down. And once you have it basically in position, so like if you have it in position like this, Since these two vertices are close to each other, and this one is the center vertex on the horizontal center, you can now grab on the Z and hold control to snap here so that they're perfectly lined up like that, and then you can just scale it to be whatever size you need. So if you want it to be this big, you can scale it to be that big. I think I may have gone with a bit smaller. Well, nope, actually I went just about the same size as what I have. And we also want to, in object mode, make sure smooth shading's on so you can get a better look at what we have. So this looks pretty nice, looks like pretty much what we want from a distance. We've got our little camera in the back. So we can save this by going to File and Save. To make this area here a little bit nicer, to make this a bit more round, we're just going to first select this in object mode and H to hide it so it's not in the way. Then select the car again, press Tab. We want to select these two vertices here. Go to Edge Select, do Select, Ring. That will get all the vertices there. Then do Control B. Then we're going to press M 3 times until down here it says %. Should say % right here. And we just type in 33 and press Enter. Back to Vertex Select, and we're going to start getting rid of some of these extra vertices. So select this one, Shift select this one, Alt M at last. Do the same here and the same here. I'm just using Shift R to repeat to make it a little faster. And we're going to do the same here. We're going to merge these down, merge this one over, merge this one over. Now we're going to take this, Shift select this, J to join. Just make sure you're selecting the correct one, should be the innermost one. Do the same here, J to join those. And then this last one, J to join on those. But you can see that this is not a circular shape. To change that, we're going to Alt right click on this middle edge, W, Loop Tools, Circle. If you get a result like this, you're just going to have to take this vertex, bring it to the center, take this vertex and bring it to the center so that they both merge, and then Alt right click again, Loop Tools, Circle, and we'll have that. We're just going to Alt right click on this other circle, delete, dissolve edges, so now we only have one circle. And to make sure that it has 2 loops around it, we're just going to select these edges and do subdivide, Alt right click on this, Q to slide, bring it all the way to the end, and then S to scale it, then W, Loop Tools, and Circle, and that will be the better option for that. So now we can, in object mode, Alt H to unhide our other piece. To make the area for the light that's here, we're just going to press Tab, switch to face selection. We're going to select these faces here, and if we take a look at the light, we can tell that it's actually out a bit further than the rest just because of how the light is hitting it. Right here you can see that the light, it's catching the light on this area, which means this part is sticking out a bit further than the rest of this. So what we're going to do, now that we have this selected, we're just going to press I then B and do a small inset, and then do I and B again, and this time do a little bit more of an inset. And then all we're going to do is on the y-axis, we're just going to pull it out slightly, not too far, so we'll have something like this. And then we're going to do I and B again and do another small inset to make it look a little bit flatter on this part as well. So now we have a nice little area for the light. If you want to move it in a little further, like if you think you pulled it out too far, you can, with these faces selected, do Control plus and then just pull it back a little. Or you can do the reverse. If you think you didn't pull it out far enough, you can just pull it out a little further when you have these faces selected. But once you're happy with it, you can go ahead and do File and Save.